Welcome to the Power of Owning Your Career podcast. I'm your host, Simone Morris, and I have a passion for empowering others to take responsibility for their careers. Yes, I've written several books on owning your career and am loving hosting this podcast. This podcast is for you if you're willing to make a shift to the driver's seat in your career. We feature leaders who inspire, empower, and motivate you for consistent career action for results. Please continue to join us every Sunday when a new episode is released. Let's get into this week's show. Hello, everybody. It's your host, Simone Morris here. And it's been a while. Season 12 has kicked off, and I really hope that you are enjoying the episodes thus far. Today, I thought we would do something a little different. It's time for a real talk, a masterclass, if you will. I've got some questions that I want to talk about from a career standpoint that may be helpful to some of you. And as always, feel free to write into the show any questions that come up for you career-wise, and I'm happy to answer them in my next real talk. So here are some questions that I thought would be helpful to talk about in the new year. As a career coach, I get asked a lot of different questions, or I shouldn't say I get asked. I get asked in conversations with people, but when I think about coaching, sometimes things surface that I feel that I want to explore a bit more and may be helpful to some. So here are some reflections that I have as someone who's been doing career coaching for a very long time and hosting this show for 3 years plus. I know you know we're over 130 plus episodes. So I say all that to say that the topic of careers is always on my mind and heart. And so today, let us dive into some interesting topics. The first one I want to dive into is the subject of how do I toot my own horn in my career? And what I mean by that is how do I show up and talk confidently about my capabilities to my manager, to my colleagues, to other people external to the organization, or even in a networking capacity? How do I show up and be confident about who I am and what I bring to the table? I want you to know that this is something that you are not the only one that struggles with this. If this is a topic that you're raising your hand, yeah, that's me. It's resonating with me. It comes up for a lot of people who they don't want to seem like they're bragging about what they're able to do. And so therefore they show up in a way that minimizes their capabilities, or they brush it off when people compliment them about their work because they don't want to draw attention to self, and they don't want to seem like they're bragging about their abilities. And so I want to say here with that I understand that. As someone from the Caribbean, I understand that. I understand cultural teachings, and I understand that it can be difficult. What I do also understand is that it is a necessity in careers to talk about your capabilities and to talk about it in a confident way. So however you do it, or however you come to terms with, I need to be able to share my capabilities. I need to not shy away from telling people what I'm capable of. And that goes for in person, in meetings, on social media. I know that's a big thing for some people. They like, I'm just going to share value, and I'm not going to say anything about what I can do. I'm here to tell you that approach needs some tweaking. And I have found and I have pushed my clients to realize that it's necessary to draw attention to your brilliance. I always recommend the book, The Art of Bragging, or The Art of Successfully Tooting Your Own Horn. I believe it's by Peggy McCall. I think that's a great book as a resource to take a look at. But I want you this week to begin to practice sharing about what you can do. Try it on at home. If you feel like you can't share it at work just yet, try it out at home. Try it out with your friends. Just saying, this week I was able to do this and I'm really proud of myself. And see how you feel. Notice the reactions in your body. Notice how you feel. What's the messages running through your mind when you're saying this, and are your palms sweaty? And just notice. I want you to just pay attention to what's happening when you talk about what you're able to do, because it really is important for your career advancement, for you to be able to build credibility and to build trust around what you're able to do and what you're able to deliver. So therefore, people want to feel confident. It's like an interview. I recently did a board interview and I was asked questions and I could tell that I was being vetted or validated, that I had the expertise that I said that I had. So I need not go inward to not talk about what I can do, because these people don't know what I can do. I need to talk about it confidently and get them to feel like I can do what they're looking for me to do. And it's the same thing for you in your career. When you shy away from talking about your capabilities and you leave the responsibility to other people to push for you, that's a bit of the passenger mentality. And this show is all about being in the driver's seat for your career. So it's really about taking ownership of your career and being intentionally hands-on about what you can do. So keep that in mind as you think about the year to come and how you want to show up and advance in your career. How do I talk about what I do? And that could show up in the form of an elevator pitch as well, where you cut it short because you just want to get it out and done. Think about how you share about what you do, who you are, what you do when you have conversations with people in networking meetings or conferences or places where you've never been to before. Go ahead and share that information, practice sharing it. What's the worst that could happen if you bumble and stumble with what you're saying? You can come back from that. I always say that you can rise from the bumbles and stumbles. You can rise because you will learn from putting your foot in your mouth, and you'll learn how to show up differently the next time. And the more that you do that, the more that you fail forward, the more that you are going to transform from a leadership, credibility, presence standpoint. So that's one of the topics that I wanted to talk about in today's Real Talk. The second one is how to deal with imposter syndrome or self-doubt about your abilities. The first thing I want to say here is that most people struggle with that. It's just how they present themselves, how they're able to come up with strategies to navigate and to move forward despite self-doubt. It is natural to feel doubtful. However, there are strategies to build your confidence. And so one of those things could be gaining new knowledge, which makes you more comfortable. I remember when I first left corporate America and I wanted to have more experience in the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion space. I ended up volunteering to be the director of diversity for the local Society for Human Resource Management. And that was a great experience for me because I got to build strategy, manage a team that was focused on how do we implement a DEI strategy for that organization, that local chapter. So I say that to say, if your confidence is wobbly in an area, volunteering may be something that you take on so that you can do some skill building, build new knowledge. I also say that organizations like Toastmasters, which is focused on verbal and written communications and also building leadership skills, putting yourself in that environment is going to build your confidence. And that is something that you can move forward towards, and an action that you can take, like I said, to build confidence. If you stumble with speaking to large audiences, or you've got a fear of public speaking. And by the way, it's natural to have a fear of public speaking because there are many that have that fear. It's one of the top 10 fears is speaking in front of people. And I know that, having done Toastmasters myself for 10 years, it works and it really helps. So if that's you're wanting to build confidence, I suggest seeking out a Toastmasters chapter and attend a meeting, speak. Don't just attend and take up space, attend and participate, because it's a great way for you to eliminate the self-doubt. It's hard at first, I'm not going to lie, especially if you are a major introvert and terrified. But the good thing is that this is a space that is designed to embrace you no matter how you show up, and provide support to you, to let you look good when you're speaking and presenting and communicating. So this is a good one to check out. The other question or topic that I want to briefly touch upon today is how to take risk in your career. Risk is one of those topics that, whew, the way that I see it is playing it safe does not serve you. It limits you. Let me say that again. Playing it safe in your career is limiting. You have to take chances. It could be scary, scary, scary. But you do have to take some chances on yourself. What is it that you want to do? What do you want your legacy to be? How does being afraid serve you? These are questions you need to answer for yourself, because if you avoid those questions, many years will pass by, and before you know it, there'll be regret in the mix that you didn't go for something that you were interested in, you were passionate about. I still think about, I remember when I was in college and I wanted to do an international study abroad. And I was so scared. I focused on how I couldn't do it, how financially the investment was too much for our family. How could I go so far away for so long? And think about this. How do you talk yourself out of things? It's easy to talk yourself out of doing something. And it's easy to listen to people who are going to limit your growth based on their lived experiences. I'm here to tell you that it does take a bit of courage to risk in your career, or to risk in going for things that you want to go for, to risk rejection, to risk exposure, exposing yourself, to have conversations, to go up to that senior leader, to secure a sponsor, someone who's going to be a champion for you in your career. That is risky. But with each risk that you take, it is skill building, it is confidence building, it is an opportunity for you to be a transformational leader. And so I want to encourage you to get comfortable in the driver's seat. And if you're not comfortable in the driver's seat for your career, I invite you to dance with discomfort. I invite you to dance with discomfort so that you can grow. And after all, this is what this is about. Growing our skills. You're listening to this podcast, I imagine, because You have a desire to advance in your career. You have a desire to do something different, to show up differently as a leader, to take control. And as I put in the book, The Power of Owning Your Career, and that's a resource for you that you can find in our store, the SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org store. And we'll also put it in the show notes, the book, The Power of Owning Your Career, the book, 52 Tips for Owning Your Career, or even the book, Achievement Unlocked. That one is about goal setting. Those resources can help you to level up in your career. And in the book, I taught the 52 Tips for Owning Your Career. I talk about how, I got my wake-up call that my career is my responsibility. And I want you to have a wake-up call that your career is your responsibility, because in fact it is. So if you're just heads down doing the work and hoping and praying and just hoping that someone will notice the good work that you're doing, I hope that happens for you. But I think you'd feel better knowing that you were involved in the outcomes of what's happening in your career, and knowing that you went for it and you pushed for it and you said, hey, I'm doing good work here. I want to be acknowledged and recognized for the good work that I'm doing. Now you can frame that in a different way, but that's the net of what I'm trying to say is, and it took me a very long time to learn that, because I had been taught heads down, don't idle at the water cooler or in the break room, heads down, get the work done, and you will be recognized. And I found that I needed to revise that thinking. I needed to revise it so that I could realize that I needed to work on building relationships, strategic relationships in the workplace. And I learned that later on in my career. So heads up, look around, and get up from your desk, get up from your work. And that just means be intentional about your calendar, add time in to do some relationship building, to take some risk, walk to a different department, or you don't have to walk. You could pick up the phone and call someone new. You could reach out to somebody on LinkedIn, and it's risky because sometimes you get message on LinkedIn, you're like, why is this person reaching out to me? And some people are bombarded and they don't respond. I don't want you to get discouraged by that. I want you to still work on building your network, work on taking risks, work on thinking, create time in your calendar to think and grow. Create time in your calendar to think and grow. I love that. So those are some thoughts that were on my mind this week to share with you. I want to tell you that I appreciate you continuing to listen to the show. I remain passionate and committed to help you be in the driver's seat for your career and to help you navigate and advance in your career. And it doesn't have to be inside the corporate walls. It could be that you're an entrepreneur listening to the show as well, or you have aspirations of being an entrepreneur. I too once had the thinking and had a side hustle or a side business when I was in the halls of corporate America. And so allow yourself the ability to have different career experiences that promote growth for you. If you need to reach me, please feel free to schedule a call. We do have complimentary career breakthrough calls, and that is careerbreakthroughcall.com, where you can schedule some time with me for a conversation. I'm open to hearing your questions, your career questions that you want me to cover in the next Real Talk. So please feel free to drop me a line, smorris@SimoneMorrisEnterprises.org. I'm happy to hear from you about how you're enjoying the show and what your questions would be. As always, please show up on LinkedIn. We do have a group on LinkedIn. I will be better at showing up more consistently in that group. That's something that I've said to myself for 2024. I want to show up more consistently there. For now, this is Simone Morris signing off for this week's episode of Real Talk. We'll be back real soon with another guest to talk to you about their experience in the driver's seat and also to share their strategies, their formula for owning their careers. Continue to listen, continue to check out our archive, and continue to be in the driver's seat for your career. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day, everybody.
I sincerely hope that you enjoyed this week's empowering career story on the podcast. If you did, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Wherever you listen to the podcast, be sure that you are subscribing and that you rate and review the podcast. It's so important as we continue to spread the word of career empowerment. In addition, you can head over to the LinkedIn platform and join the Power of Owning Your Career discussion group. There you can have access to the guests who have been on the podcast, as well as others listening to the podcast, as well as myself, where we can continue the conversation. I hope to see you on that platform. You can also email me at pooyc@simonemorris.com if you have a suggestion for guest or a message that you want me to hear personally. Thanks so much, and make it an inspiring, empowering week in your career.